Bezrat Hashem, next week is Hanukkah, and we want to make sure that when the holiday comes, we are tuned to the energy of the holiday, so I can derive the best and most powerful energy of the holiday. Because the holiday is not just a time for shopping or to be with the family. A holiday is the time that a certain energy is going on in the world, that if I tune myself to this energy, then I will derive something powerful. If you remember last year, I've said that the holiday of Chanuka, it only started the year after. Because the first time when they experienced the miracle, everybody was happy. The next year came, and on the exact same date, the sages of the generation saw the exact same godly light appearing again. We don't see that, but at the time, the sages, they had Ruach HaKodesh, the divine inspiration, and they saw the same light coming back. And when they saw it coming back over and over, they said, okay, then obviously, now we're going to decide it's going to be a holiday. So every holiday has a certain power. If we're looking at the power of Hanukkah, then you have to look at the story and at the miracle, and that kind of teaches us what can be derived out of Hanukkah. So the enemy of Hanukkah was, of course, the Greeks. Pesach was Paro, Purim was Haman, and so forth. And Hanukkah was the Greeks. And we already taught that the Greeks, their idea, their desire was to darken the world. They didn't want to come to destroy us. Haman wanted to destroy us. Hitler wanted to destroy us. Paro wanted to destroy us. They all wanted to destroy us, to kill us, to annihilate us. And also now we have a Haman that wants to annihilate us. In case you haven't noticed, he's about 1,500 kilometers from here to the west, to the east. And they want to annihilate us. They're saying it out loud, out in the open, on the media. We are building nuclear bombs to destroy the Jews. And I don't understand how people just continue their day like as if nothing's happening. But nevertheless, we have now a death threat over our heads, which is the biggest wonder, that how don't you run here in the streets with chickens like chickens without a head. And people, just yesterday, I'm leaving in 2 weeks to the United States. One of the lectures is going to be there about what's going on in the world. Because in the United States, there was a huge terror attack a few weeks ago. People were murdered. Jews were murdered. Every day, they say in America in the last couple of months, 30 to 40% increase in anti-Semite actions. So the Americans need another slap to their face to wake up. So one of the lectures, that's what it's going to be about. And it's going to be about current events, how it's corresponding to prophecies, what's going on, and so forth. So on the flyer that the designer made, then there's a picture, I don't know if you see it, maybe on the social media or whatever, there's a picture of Putin, of Ahmadinejad, Kim Jong-un, Donald Trump, all the world leaders. And that's the picture of the and of course in the background a big nuclear bomb to make it juicy. But that's what's going on. And as I was looking at the flyer and approving it before we went on the social media and invitations, I was telling my wife, people here are busy with slandering each other and fighting with each other when we have these guys there planning how to kill us. And you have time to badmouth your neighbor and to fight about he said and she said and he did and he did. We should now be hugging each other and joining forces because there's a death threat hovering over our head and people don't get that. So Yavan, the Greeks, they didn't want to kill us. They said, we're totally fine with you. You can stay alive. We don't want to kill you. We want to make you not believe in the Torah. That's a spiritual death. So they wanted to darken the world. And if you remember, once I gave a lecture that the 4 exiles that we have were already prophesied in the first verse in the Torah. Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. First Hashem created the heaven and the earth. Ve'haaretz et hatohu vavohu ve'choshech al pnei tehom. This verse, I gave a whole lecture explaining how this verse is already hinting about the 4 exiles that we are going to have to go through. And the word choshech is referring to the exile of Greece, of Yavan. It's called Galut Yavan. And all they wanted to do, the Greeks, is to move us away from the Torah, move us away from emunah, from belief, and to put us in a reality of darkness. And in case you haven't noticed, not to chas v'shalom step on anybody's toes, you are all living in a reality of darkness. If you're experiencing at least once a week sadness, then you are in a reality of darkness. You ever saw a tzaddik upset? You ever saw a tzaddik, I had a horrible day at work? No. Why? The tzaddik is all full of light. We are in a state of darkness. So I get upset, I get insulted, I get depressed, I get angry. That's darkness. I'm not talking about darkness that you see at night. I'm talking the opposite of light. This is exactly what the Greeks wanted to do, and they did a great job because we're all in this bubble of darkness. Then came the high priest Matityahu, and he did the tikkun, the rectification. We talked about it already last week. There was an army coming to attack us. It's kind of equivalent to the size of like as if the Russian army will attack us now. Not like some hooligans coming from the mountains here. Talking about an army. Matityahu is a Kohen Gadol, he's an old man. He takes his 5 kids that are also old priests, and they all go out to war. 5 men. And then another 10 men joined them, and they had unbelievable victory. Matityahu came to take this darkness and to light up the dark. How did he do that? Of course, there will happen the whole miracle with the oil, and this is the holiday of light. When you're looking at it, what is the holiday of Hanukkah? So some people will say the donuts, but the holiday of Hanukkah is just light. That's it. That's the whole thing. Half an hour, light up a candle, and the story's over. So this is really the tikkun of the darkness. I know it sounds very, very simple. Well, just lighting a candle, that's the big deal. Yeah, it's not, there's much more to it. But nevertheless, this is what we need to focus on. This is the rectification of the darkness. And the action in Hanukkah is to light up the candles. If you remember, I spoke about it several times, don't need to repeat too much. The miracle was when they found the pitcher of oil. I have explained over Shabbat and in previous classes that this pitcher of oil was already hidden there in Bet HaMikdash for 700 years, because at the time of King Solomon, of Shlomo HaMelech, there was a Kohen Gadol, Bnayahu ben Yehoyada. He took this pitcher and he hid it. And 700 years later, the Chashmonaim found it in Bet HaMikdash. This is the pitcher of oil that David HaMelech used to anoint, Shmuel HaMelech used to anoint David. This is the pitcher of oil that Moshe Rabbeinu used to anoint the Mishkan and the Kelim. And this is the pitcher of oil that Yaakov made a U-turn to go after, to cross the river to get. This is this famous pitcher of oil. Now, interestingly, when you're looking in our history, in any types of books of our sages, you don't find much information about Chanukkah. The entire Talmud, there are 2 pages about Chanukkah. That's the whole thing. For Rosh Hashanah, there's a whole tractate. Pesach, a whole tractate. Sukkot, a whole tractate. Chanukkah, 2 pages in Tractate Shabbat. That's what you have. In the Zohar, a few ma'amarim here and there, in Tikkunei Zohar. That's what we have about Chanukkah. But from the generation of the Arizal, Rabbi Yitzchak Luria, pouring of information. Unbelievable information. It's increasing and growing and growing. The much information that we have on Hanukkah. So just imagine that up to 400 years ago, 450 years ago, we barely had any information about Hanukkah. Mystically, I'm not talking about the miracle. Miracle, okay, we heard the miracle. Mystically, we didn't have anything. From the Arizal, everything opened, and we all know the Arizal. Anybody will say Arizal, Rabbi Yitzchak Luria, everybody, oh yeah. People come to Tzfat, they go to the Arizal. They don't notice that next to him are sitting not less giants next to him. Right in front of the grave of the Arizal is the Ramak, who was his teacher. Next to, excuse me?
Joseph Karo?
Yeah, and Yosef Karo is a few dozen feet away. But I'm talking next to the Arizal, attached to the Arizal, Rabbi Shlomo El-Kabetz. He was before him. And in front of him is Rabbi Moshe Cordovero, the Ramak. I mean, there were giants here in Tzfat, but everybody goes to the Arizal. He's the famous one. But you know how many students he had that became huge, and they don't get all the credit? I mean, the only student that's getting his credit is the Rabbi Chaim Vital, who wrote all his teachings. But what about all the rest of the students? The Arizal didn't write books. Nevertheless, there is a book. It's called Sefer HaRokeach. Very, very, very powerful book. Was written by Rabbi Eliezer Migarmine. about 200 or 300 years ago, something like that, and has a lot of information, unbelievable information. And there is another two great Kabbalah teachers. One of them is known as the Gaon Chida, and the other one is called the Bnei Sachar. These are books of Kabbalah that are all from the teachings of the Ari. And the Chida and the Bnei Sachar both say that Sefer HaRokeach, this information from the Sefer HaRokeach, is all information directly from Eliyahu Navi. Bechlal, we know that most of the teachings of the Arizal, if you go to the synagogue here next to the cemetery, there's a little cave there. That's where the story says that's where the Ari would say there and sit there and have his teachings from the Eliyahu Navi. So most of the information that the Ari got, and many others, and it's not that the Arizal is the only one, many others, Eliyahu Navi comes and teaches them. So both the Chida and the Bnei Sachar, that are very known names in the world of Kabbalah, they say that the Sefer HaRokeach is all information came from Eliyahu Navi. Of the Rokeach?
Yeah.
I don't know the translation. Well, yeah, that's the translation, but that's not the name of the book. I think it's actually called the Rokeach. A lot of the books of Kabbalah, yesterday, the day before I was teaching in the Zohar class about the Megalei Amukot, and there's no an English name to it. It's called Megalei Amukot. But nevertheless, this is one of the books where we have a lot of insights about Hanukkah. Now, very, very interestingly, in the Talmud, but not in the Bavli Talmud, in the Yerushalmi Talmud, there is a place in Tractate Brachot that is talking about, not necessarily Hanukkah, but it does talk about something. That something is called Ohr Haganuz, the hidden light. And we hear about this hidden light many times. What is this Ohr Haganuz? When Hashem created the world, how did Hashem create? What's the first thing that Hashem created? The light. Vayi Or. That's the first thing that He created. This is the light that is called Ohr Haganuz, the concealed light. It's not the light that we see now, because that was only created on the fourth day. The sun and the moon were created, and the stars were created on the fourth day, which means that on the first, the second, and the third day, there was some type of light, because the famous verse, Vayi Or, and there should be light. This is the light that the Kadosh Baruch Hu created and shined in the world, and it's called the concealed light, Ohr Haganuz. Why is it concealed? That's what we're going to learn today. Why is it called concealed? Because the Kadosh Baruch Hu removed it from the world, and He says, I'm going to keep it for the future, la'atid lavo, when the future will come, to the tzaddikim. So how long did this light shine? 3 days, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. Wednesday morning already the sun and the moon were created. Now, the Yerushalmi says something very interesting. If you remember, I have said that a couple of times, that how many hours was this light shining? One opinion says 3 days, right? 3 days will be how much? 72 hours. So one opinion says it was shining for 72 hours. But the opinion that, of course, we all go by, it says no, it was shining only for 36 hours. Because Sunday is 12 hours of light, Monday is 12 hours of light, and Tuesday 12 hours of light. The Torah says very clearly, Vayi Erev, Vayi Boker. Should be a night, should be a day. So we understand that this light was shining for 36 hours. Where do we find the number 36? Also 36 tzaddikim, but 36 candles of Hanukkah. So, but the Talmud, the Yerushalmi, says something very interesting about this Ohr Haganuz. And it says in the Talmud that on Friday, I'm talking about the Friday of the creation of the world, Hashem brought back the light for 12 hours. And right after that, you remember, Adam HaRishon sinned, so the light had to be removed. But right away, it was already Shabbat, and Hashem could not remove the light. The Talmud says that the Shabbat came to Hashem and says, please leave this light for another 24 hours. That it would shine throughout Shabbat, in the first Shabbat in history. So we find that from the Talmud, the Ohr Haganuz was lit up another 36 hours. 24 hours of Shabbat and 12 hours in Friday. Again, we see this 36 hours, this Ohr Haganuz was shining. The Rokeach, the book that I told you about, backs this up, and it says the Ohr Haganuz was shining on Shabbat and Friday, while Adam HaRishon was created, was shining for 36 hours. So, again, like I said, we find the 36 hours of the 36 candles of Hanukkah. So we learn from that. This comes from another book. The book is called Shomer Emunim. That there is a very a greater advantage on the light coming from the menorah that we light in Hanukkah than the light coming from the menorah in Bet HaMikdash. So we go back to the idea of the Ohr Haganuz was shining 36 hours. We have 36 candles in Hanukkah, so we already see a very strong connection. Then we continue, and the point to take from that every candle of Hanukkah is representing 1 hour of Ohr Haganuz. So when we light in total 36 candles, just imagine the light on the 8th day of Hanukkah versus the light on the first day of Hanukkah, because you have 8 candles lighting. We're not counting the shamash, by the way. Nevertheless, we're only counting the actual candles. Don't count the shamash. That we'll add another 8 candles, but the shamash is not a candle. Shamash means the one who lights up the candles. Nevertheless, the Shomer Emunim says that the light that's coming out from the Chanukiah, from the menorah, is greater. It has a greater advantage than the light that had in the menorah that they used to light in Bet HaMikdash. And why is that? Because Bet HaMikdash was 1 menorah. Next week there's going to be probably 500,000 menorahs lit up around the world. So you have 1 against thousands. And everywhere. It's not only in Bet HaMikdash. You know, they're already lighting Chanukiah in the Kremlin. You know, you can't even imagine where they light up Chanukiyot right now. So this Ohr Haganuz that we're talking about, this concealed light, this is the light that's going to be doing the rectification to the world. I mean, right now the world is not in a state of completion or perfection, and the Ohr Haganuz is what's going to do the rectification. Now, what does it mean that the Ohr Haganuz is shining? What is okay, you're telling me, like Eliza just asked, what is this Ohr Haganuz? What is this concealed light? What does it mean that it's shining? Do you think it's a light coming out like from a light bulb? This is not what we're referring to. Light is a spiritual concept. It's not the physical light you see from a light bulb. And it's a very important thing to remember that when you're learning mystical teachings of Kabbalah and Hasidut and Zohar, when we're referring to the term light, it's not light. It's not the light that you turn on the light bulb. Rather, the definition, based on the terminology in Kabbalah, what it means, Or is a light. Or means Chokhmah Bina Dat. The 3 emanations that are called mochin, that are the intellect, the first 3 emanations that we have. Now, what does it mean really, Chokhmah Bina and Dat? To define it in one sentence, to understand something. That's it. To understand. Doesn't matter right now how I understand it with Bina, with Dat. We're not going to even go into this in this class. And if you're not so aware, if it's a foreign term to you, then you have to take the time to learn what it means, Chokhmah Bina and Dat. But to define Chokhmah Bina Dat in one sentence is to understand. That's it, to understand something. Now, when do I understand? How many times somebody tells you something and you're looking at the person and like, I don't understand nothing. What's going on? When I became observant, and I'm not a stupid guy, I used to go to yeshiva and the rabbi would teach and I would be like, I didn't understand one word what he said. Especially when you go learn the Talmud. You're looking at the rabbi like, are you speaking the same language I speak? And I would look around, did you get anything? And I was like, what's going on with me? Why can't I understand? Why I can understand a sophisticated mathematical equation, but I can't understand this argument in the Talmud. And I don't get it. And the rabbi would be like, you don't get it? No, I don't get it. I didn't get it. Now this is one example out of many. How many times you didn't understand something? And you're looking and you're like, I don't understand that. The reason why you don't understand that, because there's no shining of this light, so you are limited. You don't understand. Chokhmah Bina and Dat is to understand something when something is like, I get it. I got it. Now sometimes you get it with a parable. Sometimes you get it with a diagram on the wall. Sometimes you get it after 50 times it was said. This is the idea of Chokhmah Bina and Dat. Now, sometimes you understand things, and sometimes you don't understand things. If you have the right shine, the right shining of the light, you will understand. And if the light is not shining, you will not understand. If you want to take it to our physical metaphor, there's light in the room, you see things. There's no light in the room, you don't see nothing. Turn the lights off now, you don't see anything. You know we exist, I can hear you, but I don't see you. Turn the light on, you'll see me. If the light is very dim, you'll see shadows. Light is very bright, you'll see everything perfect. Same idea, just that here it's in the brain, here it's with what I see in my eyes. So basically, to conclude it, light means the power of understanding. And we're going to call it now for this class, Chokhmah. Chokhmah means wisdom. Now, Ohr Haganuz, it means the light that I can't see. It's a wisdom that I can't get. I have a book here. Here it is. Very, very unique book. The other day we finished the Zohar class. I spoke a few different books. They were sitting here, two of the students, and I told them, if you want to read this book. One of them opened it. He says, and the next day, I said, no, you read from it? He said, I didn't understand one word. He told me, you understand something from this book? I said, well, I kind of, some of it. He's like, I didn't understand one word. One word, I know how to read it. Put the words together, nothing makes sense. Does it mean that he's ignorant? Does it mean that he doesn't know how to read? It means that the chokhmah, the wisdom that is placed in the words, he doesn't have a shine from this light. He will never understand that. People quote the Arizal all the time. I can guarantee to you, I'll give you copies of the scripts of the Arizal, you're not going to understand one word. People say, oh, the Ari. Yeah, his students explained it, and you're now quoting something. I have all these Kitvei Arizal. I have books of Kabbalah that are very rare. I don't understand one word there. Why? Because the level of chokhmah, of wisdom, of that tzaddik, that he sees something and he writes it down, I will never understand. Doesn't matter what I'm going to try. So you see in our generation, half the world is saying, I learned Kabbalah. No, you don't. You are learning an interpretation of the introduction of the interpretation of the introduction of another introduction of the interpretation. You're not learning Kabbalah. You think you're learning Kabbalah? The Rizal was learning Kabbalah. I mean, I'm not chas v'shalom disqualifying anybody's teachings or learning, but we're learning like the introduction of the introduction of the explanation and so forth. Ohr Haganuz, it means that the light that is not revealed to us, and it's not going to be revealed right now, it's going to be revealed in the world to come, and when Mashiach will come. That's why it says La'atid lavo. Wisdom that will come. Now this wisdom, again, it's not necessarily wisdom that I know physics. This is called the wisdom of Hashem. This wisdom, this light is going to cure the world when Mashiach is going to come. When Mashiach is going to come, there's not going to be diseases. There's not going to be any type of sickness. We're not going to have hospitals. We're not going to have that stuff anymore. Like in Matan Torah, when the Torah was given, everybody was cured. Now, why would this light fix everything? Why Ohr Haganuz fixes everything? What's so special about this light? So, we are kind of in some type of a space. When Hashem wanted to create the world, He needed a space. I'm not talking about the space now, the galaxies. I'm talking about in a place, where do I put the world? So Hashem had to create two things when He created the world. Time and space. Because there's no time in the spiritual world and there's no space in the spiritual world. So we are in some type of a space. So we are in a, let's say we'll call it now a box of where this universe is in. The Ohr Haganuz is above this box, is above this world. We can't see it and we can't understand it. So above this universe, there's no place for any blemishes. There's no blemishes in the world above. There's no such a thing as a lie in the spiritual world. There's no such thing as hate in the spiritual world. There's no such a thing as a sickness in the spiritual world. Why do you think souls cannot go into Gan Eden and they have to go back here in a reincarnation or to Gehenom? Because they damage themselves with a sin, so they can't go into Gan Eden because it will not fit. Something that is blemished cannot go into something that is perfect. So they have to go back into the world to fix it, or to Gehenom to wash it off. But the world, the spiritual world, is perfect. So Ohr Haganuz is above this universe, so to say. Now, how do I get connected to this Ohr Haganuz? First of all, we're going to see that when we will be revealed this Ohr Haganuz, this is when the Mashiach is going to come. There's no such a thing, the reality of evil in that time. There's not going to be evil when Mashiach comes. Now in this world, 99% is evil. Lying and cheating and hate and violence and wars. And when Mashiach is going to come, no more evil. Can you imagine a world with no evil? Yes. Everybody's loving each other. Everybody's accepting each other. No bad animals, no diseases, no kupat cholim anymore, no doctors. Just imagine waking up in the morning right away, not my back and oh my tooth, I can't. Just imagine what kind of a weird world. All day long we're complaining, my head, my tuchus, my back. Anyways, how do I get a revelation of this Ohr Haganuz? Is when I realize something very, very profound, but yet very simple. That everything that happens to me is for my own benefit. That's it. That's how you get connected to this Ohr Haganuz in this world. I'm not talking when Mashiach comes. I don't know when Mashiach is coming. I had huge hopes that he's going to come already 10 years ago. But the way how we're treating each other, I don't know when. I really don't know. But nevertheless, that's not what I'm trying to talk about. Nevertheless, how do we get connected to this Ohr Haganuz? Is that I understand that everything that happens to me is the best thing that ever happened. I won the lottery. Who taught us that and who mastered that? Rabbi Akiva, one of our greatest of all sages, the famous Rabbi Akiva. 22 years, that's what he learned. And what's the conclusion that he came to? Kol man de'avid rachamana letav avid. Everything that Hashem does is only for your best. There's no such a thing that something happens in your life, it's a mistake, it's a punishment, you make a wrong turn. Everything. There are great tzaddikim that went through the Holocaust with a smile, because there's a great tzaddik, and I don't remember his name, that he used to work in the Holocaust in one of the camps. There were the ones, Hashem Yerachem Yimach Shimam, these Nazis, they used to gas the people, and then how do you get rid of the bodies? They used to burn the bodies. There was a certain squad that would move the bodies from the gas chambers into the ovens. Can you imagine? 18 hours a day to move bodies from the gas chambers to the ovens. And this tzaddik would do it with a smile the whole time. He understood. He looked at the bodies. He said, "You just left your coat." "Excuse me, sir." What? The soul goes to Gan Eden. The coat was left here, the body. Then he would pick up the bodies. It's still a holy body. Did the whole thing with a smile. How can you survive such a thing? Any individual will go completely nuts. And he does it with a smile. Kol man de'avid rachmana letav avid. Everything that Hashem does is for the best. Now, who's this Rabbi Akiva's teacher? He's our neighbor. He's 5 minutes from here. Nachum Ish Gamzu. He's Rabbi Akiva's teacher. That's his rabbi. Everything that happened to him, Gamzu letova. It's all for the best. That was his name, Nachum Ish Gamzu. Interestingly, it's talking about Nachum Ish Gamzu. Every time it's talking about it, it says Ha'ish Nachum Ish Gamzu. What's the gematria of Ha'ish, the gematria of Ha'ish Gamzu letova? Mashiach ben David. 424. That's when you refer to this great tzaddik, he says, Ha'ish Nachum Ish Gamzu. The gematria of the sentence, Ha'ish Gamzu letova, is 424, Mashiach ben David. Everything is for the best. This is Geula. This is redemption. Everything is perfect. Perfection. Now, right now, we are in the darkness. This is called Hastara. We don't see Hashem. Nobody sees Hashem. Every now and then we get like maybe some message, a miracle, something. But we are right now in a state of darkness. It's called Hastara. But we have to understand that in everything is a spark of this Ohr Haganuz. Everything. When you see that everything has something good, everything has something good. Even that fly, there's also something good there. Everything is good. When I see that in everything, in this world, everything is good, that's when I get connected to the Ohr Haganuz. That's the way to do it. Now, to do it is easy? No. But I'm just saying you how you do it. The Yetzer Hara, we learned about them yesterday and the day before in the Zohar classes. I highly recommend you either attend the classes or watch the classes online. At least the last two. The Yetzer Hara, you know what he is? Is a Hollywood producer. He shows us a movie. He takes us to a movie. There's a parable that once they took a person that, was not living in society, and they took him to a movie house. And he sits in the movie house with his popcorn, and suddenly, bloop, the lights go off. Whoa! What happened? Turn the lights on. And then, they start the movie. And the movie is projected on the wall. Can you see the movie without the lights turned off? He says to her, turn the lights on, I can't see anything. But if we turn the light on, you can't see the movie. I haven't been to a theater, to a movie house in like 20 years. But I remember, you sit in the movie house, and then they turn the lights off, and then you can see the movie. And sometimes, remember, in the middle of the movies, they turn the lights on. Whoa! Whoa! And you can't see nothing. I'm not talking when you're watching a movie in your home. I'm talking about when you're watching a movie theater. So correct me if I'm wrong. I've been to a movie house for many, many years. I don't know, maybe something changed. But you can see the movie when the light is on. So the Yetzer Hara turns the lights off. No, I don't see anything. Now the Yetzer Hara comes in, Steven Spielberg, let me show you a beautiful movie today. And in the movie, you are the star. And here, the Yetzer Hara is a movie producer, and he's showing us a movie. You know, in Hebrew, in Israel, there's a term to that for a person, Tachai B'Seret, you're living in a movie. You're not living in reality. Why is the Yetzer Hara showing us a movie? He's a liar. The Yetzer Hara is called a liar. A movie is a lie. You know why it's the most powerful industry in the world? Because we are fed from lies. People go to a movie and like, oh, for 2 hours, they're like, wow. Then you go out of the movie house and back to reality. And then people, they go after, that's the funny thing. Yeah, I remember when I was a kid, you would go out of a movie house after like a Kung Fu movie, everybody's like, you know, I remember going out of Karate Kid, everybody's like, wax on. You know, this is 30 years ago, I mean, that's my generation. But nevertheless, everybody goes out of the movie like, Mom, I need to wash the cars. What's going on with you? So you go out of the movie, you're still stuck in the movie. So that's the Yetzer Hara. He projects a movie, he turns the lights off, there's darkness, complete darkness. Now the movie starts. What is his point? The Yetzer Hara has 3 points. That's his agenda. And don't be mistaken for 1 second. People think the Yetzer Hara is here to make you sin. The Yetzer Hara wants you 3 things. One of them, he wants you to be angry and to be irritated. This is called kas v'hakpada. That's what the Yetzer Hara is going to poke you all day long. All day long. He's going to poke you that you're irritated and that you're angry. The second thing, the Yetzer Hara, he wants you to have fear and anxieties. And the third thing that the Yetzer Hara is called pchadim v'charadot. And the third thing that the Yetzer Hara wants from you, he wants you to have sadness and despair. Atzvut v'yeush. That's his agenda. He's going to make you sad, he's going to make you depressed, he's going to make you have fear. Fear anything. Fear is not that I'm afraid of a mouse. How am I going to pay the rent? How am I going to pay the rent? How am I going to pay the bill? That's fear. How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? That's fear.
What was the third one? You said fearing.
We had anger and irritation, fear and anxiety, and sadness and despair. These are the 3 things that the Yetzer Hara is after. That's all a lie. That's, if you want to define all this in one word, lie. There's no such a thing. There's no such a thing. When I understand that everything is a lie, what I just said, then I'm already experiencing Olam Haba. I'm already being attached to the Ohr Haganuz. Everything is a lie. You know, we always talk about the word Olam Haba. There's so many definitions what's Olam Haba. The main definition of Olam Haba is the world to come, after we die, after Tchiyat HaMetim, after the resurrection of the dead. There's another definition of Olam Haba. It's called Olam Haba Bator, the next world. When I die, where do I go? I don't know. Maybe Gehenom, maybe Gan Eden, I don't know. But the next one in line. You know what the Arizal says about Olam Haba? The Arizal says, Olam Haba kol rega v'rega. Every moment is a Olam Haba. You know that we're experiencing seconds. Every second is a frame. Stop the frame. Stop the frame. The next second is Olam Haba. Is the next, what's waiting for me right now? You know that I can change everything in a blink of an eye. That's Olam Haba. That's what the Arizal says. Olam Haba is right here. I can live now in a state of anger. Okay, no more anger. Olam Haba. No, before I was angry, now I'm not angry anymore. How did you stop the anger so fast? I just made a switch in my mind. I don't want to be angry. It's not so easy, but that's how it works. Everything is up here. Now, how do I get connected to Ohr Haganuz? Is when I realize that everything in my life is amazing. Thank you, Hashem. Unbelievable. I just got subpoenaed to court. Thank you, Hashem. I'm going to meet the judge. I'm going to meet the judge. So, you have this attitude, the judge is going to send you back home. Says, you know, but when you look at everything is good, that's when you get connected to the Ohr Haganuz. You have to look at everything is good, everything that Hashem does is good, everything is positive. Is it easy? No. Is it easy to reach? I didn't say it's easy. I'm just saying that's what you need to do. The second that I understand this point, I will be able to overpower every challenge that I have in my life. Everything is going to be like hopping over puddles of water. You know, nothing happened. I only owe $500,000 to the bank. No problem. I'll get it. How? I don't know. I told you there's a guy here in this town, every time I see him, we're not really friends, but we nod to each other the head, and he's always have a smile. One time I did bump into him, and I talked to him, and we talked, and you know, a rare individual in the city, they didn't talk about other people, just talked about, but nevertheless, I told him, I always see you, always in a good mood, it gives me a good mood. And then he tells me, oh, I don't know how we got into conversation. He told me he owes the bank 100,000 shekels. He told me, I got to run to the bank, I got to make a deposit. And it was nice to talk to you, but I got to run to the bank. And then he tells me he owes the bank 100,000 shekels. And I'm like, and you're still smiling? He's like, of course I'm smiling. I tell him, why? He's like, I'm happy. He's like, why are you happy? He's like, I'm happy it's not 200,000. So that's the attitude. It's only 100. Can you imagine if it was 200? The second that you understand that everything is good, you're already going to connect yourself to the Ohr Haganuz, and needless to say, you're going to overpower any challenge. In the candle of Chanukkah is when I can have the time, have the intention that to receive this Ohr Haganuz. Because the light of Chanukkah is shining the Ohr Haganuz. Remember, I told you 36 candles, 36 hours of the Ohr Haganuz. When the light of Chanukkah is shining, I can connect to the Ohr Haganuz. What do I need to have in my mind in order to get it? I need to look at the candle and to have in my mind, everything is for the best. We're going to light the candles next week. 40 minutes, we're sitting next to the candles. I'm going to explain, even though I said that many times, there's a certain group of Tehillim that we read, a certain Tikkun that we read. It's not the time you're busy with your WhatsApp. It's not your time you're checking your messages. You're looking at the candles and you have one thought. Akol letovah. Everything is good. You're looking and enjoying the candles. When you're doing that, you say to Hashem, Hashem, please shine in my heart that I will understand for the rest of the year that everything is good. You do that 40 minutes every day for 8 days, the rest of the year you'll be unbelievable. But you have to internalize. Everything is for the best. But I'm divorced. You'll find another husband. Everything is amazing. The first one was a schmuck. But I lost my money. It's good. The other partner will take you down to the IRS, will come to you after a month. Whatever it is, you put in your mind. Everything that happens, you turn it around why it was good for you. I had a partner that the whole partnership exploded. I lost a lot of money. A lot of money. And it was a year of a hardship. Because he stole money, he took me down, and then he threw me out of the contract. I lost a lot of the money. The year passed, 3 months later, the FBI came and arrested him, and he was a crook, and if I would be attached to him, I would go down with him. And I was like, wow, look at that. I would go down with him because I would be a partner. And I was out, I was kicked out. And I was, look at that, how Hashem saved me. That was one of the first times that I understand how Hashem takes care of everything. So, just to quickly summarize it, the Rabbi Nachman says in Likutei Moharan, specifically in Torah that is called Ayeh, this is Torah 12, and he says there that everything in our reality has to have hidden light in it, everything. And if it doesn't have a hidden light in it, a godly light in it, it doesn't exist. So everything, even the worst of the worst. And we say in the Torah, that his entire presence is in this world. What is this? What is kavod? What is his presence, his honor? His light. Everything in the world has his light. Now, there is a verse in the book of Yeshaya, chapter 42, where he says, Kvodi le'acher lo eten. My honor, my presence to other, I will never give. What is this referring to? The translation of the verse is, my glory I will not give to another. What does that mean? The interpretation means that Hashem does not give His godly light to places that are impure and places of idol worship. So when there's a place of pure idol worship, Hashem doesn't give His light over there. But we just said that there's everywhere the light of Hashem. So how does that place exist? How does a wicked person exist? If Hashem says, I'm not going to give my glory and light to anybody else that is going against me. How is that possible that they're existing? Because Hashem doesn't give from His honor, from His light, but from the external light. But from the Ohr Haganuz, it's hidden there. Which means that in the worst of all places, that's where the Ohr Haganuz is. You're not going to find Ohr Haganuz in a Sefer Torah or in a shul. You're going to find Ohr Haganuz in the most disgusting place. Lying, cheating, and so forth. That's why Hashem brings you to all these horrible places, because that's where the Ohr Haganuz is. Go and reveal it. So the Ohr Haganuz is the one that enlivens all the disgusting places. And Rabbi Nachman says in the lowest places in the universe, that's where you find the highest of all lights. Just now go there and you start dealing with it. That's why we deal with all these places, because that's where the Ohr Haganuz is. But everything is concealed. Everything is covered. Now, what is that all for? So Rabbi Nachman says that when Hashem brings you to this disgusting place, that's when you're going down, that's the beginning of you going up. How do you become observant? We all became observant. Doesn't matter right now, converted, not converted, doesn't matter. Become observant, doesn't matter where you come from. You can be born to an observant Jewish family and become observant, because 90% of them go away from the Torah and they come back. But how do you become observant? When you go far away, when you go to a bad place. That's when you start seeing the miracles of Hashem. That's where you see how Hashem is involved in your life. So how do I get close to Hashem? Is by going further away from Hashem. That's when I start seeing things, the picture is better. You know, sometimes you're looking at a picture, you don't see nothing. You move back. Oh, now I see things clear. You are able to become observant, what we call lachzor b'tshuva, if a spark of the godly, of this Ohr Haganuz didn't shine in you for a second even. There's no such a thing. Even some people it shines for a second, some people it shines for a month, some people it shines for half a year. It doesn't stay. If you remember, I'm sure you notice, that in the beginning there's a lot of excitement, you become observant, all the light goes off. What happened? I was once very excited. Well, you got a little boost from the Ohr Haganuz, and that's it. Now do it by yourself, like a jump start, when you jump start the car. I need to find godliness in the worst of all places. And when I'm saying a worst place, I'm not talking now going to Vegas. I'm talking about in my life. When I'm in the worst of all places of my life, I have to find the godliness and the good in it. That's how I reveal the Ohr Haganuz. That's how I start shining. That's how I start growing. So this is the idea of the candle of Hanukkah. This is the secret behind the candle of Hanukkah. And you know, when we light up the Hanukkah, there's another secret. What do we say? Ladlik ner shel Chanuka. That's the bracha. The acronym of Ladlik ner shel Chanuka is the letters Nachal. Nun chet lamed. Ner, Ladlik ner Chanuka. Right? This is the acronym, not in the order, but it's the letters Nachal. What is Nachal? Nachal is a river. There's a famous verse in the book of Mishlei, Proverbs, that it says Nachal novea mekor chokhmah. The wellspring of wisdom is the flowing stream. The Nachal is what gives you all this energy. The candle, all you need to do is look at the candle and focus your thoughts. You get attached to this Ohr Haganuz that will shine in your heart and in your neshama for the rest of the year. So we have 8 days. You don't have to do much. You don't have to cook meals. You don't have to run through long prayers. Just light. Thank you. Just light up the candle. Some say half an hour, some say 40 minutes, some say 50 minutes. Sit next to the candle, turn your phone off. I'll teach you before Hanukkah, I have it already online. If you're not going to be here, there's a certain group of Tehillim that we read, a certain tikkun. Look at the candle and just say, Hashem, I know everything is good. Help me see the good in everything. Help me have this piece of this Ohr Haganuz that for the rest of my life, everything will be good. And you know what? When you see that, when you get attached to that, and you see that everything that Hashem does is good, your life changes drastically and dramatically. That's how we start revealing this hidden light in the world. B'ezrat Hashem, we should merit to see already with our own eyes this revealed light, this godly light already shining 24 hours, not only in the candles of Hanukkah, but we should see it already with our own eyes. Amen.